October 18th, 1943. 0400 hours. Forests outside Smolensk, Soviet Union. Vera Blackwell had been lying motionless for 20 consecutive hours. The temperature hovered at 15 degrees below 0 Celsius. Each breath she exhaled formed tiny ice crystals in the darkness. Any visible condensation could give away her position to the German observation post 473 meters distant. She was 23 years old, born in Philadelphia, raised in poverty, now operating 5,000 miles from home as the only black woman in the Soviet 6th Guards Army. Through the PE-4 scope mounted on her Mosin Nagant rifle, she observed German soldiers moving with casual confidence. They walked between fortified positions without excessive caution, smoked cigarettes in the open, stood exposed during shift changes. They believed themselves safe behind their defensive lines. For 3 weeks, Vera had been teaching them that belief. 27 shots fired, 27 deliberate misses, each one carefully calculated to appear genuine but ineffective, to create the impression of an incompetent sniper. Poor training or inadequate equipment. Not worth serious concern. The Germans had stopped taking her seriously 14 days ago. That was the goal. Today was October 20th. In approximately 8 hours, German officers from 3 divisions would gather outside that command bunker. A coordination meeting for winter defensive operations, high-ranking staff, strategic planners, the kind of targets that could change the course of battles. They would stand in the open, relaxed, unguarded, because for 3 weeks the shooter in these woods had demonstrated complete inability to hit anything. Vera had spent those weeks conditioning them, teaching them safety where none existed, building false confidence that would cost lives when shattered. 6 minutes from now, 8 hours in the future, she would fire 8 shots. 8 German officers would die. 400 to 600 Allied soldiers would live because of the chaos and disruption that followed. This is the story of how a woman who worked in a Philadelphia ammunition factory became one of the most innovative psychological warfare operators of World War II, and how patience became deadlier than any bullet. Before we continue, this account required 40 hours of archival research. We examined declassified Office of Strategic Services reports, Soviet military records, German casualty documents captured after the war, post-war testimony from surviving veterans on both sides, museum documentation, family interviews. If you value deep investigations into forgotten military history, stories about real people who changed warfare through intelligence rather than just firepower, subscribe to this channel right now. Every subscription tells the algorithm to share these stories with people who understand that the greatest weapons are often the quietest. Now let's go back to where this began. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1936. Vera Blackwell was 16 years old. The Great Depression still gripped the nation. Her father, Silas Blackwell, worked at Midvale Steel Company operating precision lathes, one of the few Philadelphia facilities employing black workers in skilled positions rather than just manual labor. The work required extraordinary focus, measurements calculated to thousandths of an inch. A single mistake could destroy an entire piece. Waste materials the family couldn't afford. Silas would return home each evening with metal shavings clinging to his work clothes. He'd sit at their small kitchen table in the Federal Street row house and tell Vera the same thing he'd been saying since she was old enough to understand words. Baby girl, this world will give you one chance to prove yourself, maybe less than one. That chance needs to be perfect, not good. Perfect. Because they're looking for reasons to say you can't do it. Her mother, Opal, worked 16-hour shifts at a textile factory, industrial sewing, military contracts even before the war. By 1938, the orders were changing. Less civilian clothing, more uniforms, olive drab, khaki. Everyone knew war was approaching even if America wasn't in it yet. The Blackwell family lived in a neighborhood where survival depended on doing more with less, where neighbors shared whatever they had, where young Vera learned that being underestimated could be an advantage if you were smart enough to use it. In 1938, when Vera turned 17, she took employment at Baldwin Locomotive Works Ammunition Division. The factory had begun hiring women as men left for better-paying defense work or early military enlistment. She started on the shell casing production line. 30 caliber rounds, 12,000 casings produced daily. Every single one had to meet precise specifications. Dimensional tolerances of thousandths of an inch. Any defect could cause weapon jams in the field. Chamber explosions, dead soldiers. The factory's acceptable defect rate was 0.2%. 24 defective casings per thousand were considered normal industrial variants. Within 6 months, Vera was promoted to Quality Control Inspector. Her personal defect rate, 0.003%. 3 defective casings per 100,000. 67 times better than facility average. She would walk assembly lines with calipers and precision measuring instruments, checking dimensions that most inspectors verified with gauges. Vera could detect irregularities by visual inspection alone. Her eyes had been trained by years of watching her father work. Understanding that precision wasn't just measurement, it was survival. She could maintain absolute concentration for 12-hour shifts. No breaks except biological necessities, no distraction by noise or commotion, no degradation of performance even when exhausted. Her supervisor, Wallace Grant, wrote in her 9-month evaluation, "Miss Blackwell demonstrates precision capabilities I have not observed in 22 years supervising industrial operations. She appears capable of detecting dimensional variances measuring 0.0005 inches through visual inspection. This should be physically impossible. Recommend permanent assignment quality control with potential supervisory consideration." But this was 1940. A black woman in a defense factory. There was no supervisory track available, only the work. So Vera did the work, inspected casings, prevented defects, saved soldiers' lives through quality control nobody would ever know about. Because her father had taught her the fundamental truth: precision is survival. December 7th, 1941. Vera was 21 years old. She sat with her parents in their kitchen listening to radio broadcasts. The announcer's voice crackling through descriptions of Japanese aircraft attacking Pearl Harbor, bombs falling on American battleships, men burning in oil-slicked water. The USS Arizona sinking with 1,100 sailors trapped inside. Silas sat with his head bowed, hands covering his face. Opal wept silently. Vera felt something different. Not grief, not shock, rage. Precise, focused, cold rage. The same focused intensity she brought to inspecting 10,000 shell casings without a single error. The next morning she went to the Army recruiting station on Broad Street. The sergeant behind the desk looked up when she entered, looked down at his paperwork, looked up again with visible confusion. "We're not taking women, miss. If your husband or brother needs to enlist, they should come in person." "I don't have a husband. My brother is 13. I'm volunteering myself." Dang, the sergeant actually smiled. Patronizing, dismissive. "Honey, the Army doesn't need girls. We need soldiers. I work at Baldwin Locomotive, quality control. I can shoot. I can measure tolerances to 0.001 inches. I can maintain focus for 12 hours without..." "You can go back to your factory. That's how you serve. Make bullets for the men who'll fire them. Next." She tried again in January 1942, different recruiting station. Same response. Tried a third time in February. A different sergeant, older, less dismissive in tone but equally firm in conclusion. "Ma'am, I understand your desire to serve, truly, but United States military regulations do not permit women in combat roles. Even if they did, we maintain separate units for colored soldiers. There are no provisions for colored women in any military capacity beyond nursing or certain administrative positions. I can outshoot most men. That may well be true, but regulations aren't my decision. They're the government's decision." Vera walked out of that third recruiting station understanding something fundamental. Her country was at war. Her country needed every capable person. But her country had decided she didn't qualify as capable, not because of ability, because of melanin concentration and chromosome configuration. The anger she felt wasn't hot, it was cold, precisely calibrated, like measuring a shell casing and finding it 0.002 inches out of tolerance. She returned to the factory, kept working, kept perfect, kept waiting. February 1942, a community meeting at the church on South Street. Vera attended because her mother asked. Some kind of volunteer organization presentation. Probably another call for women to buy war bonds or roll bandages. She sat in the back row, expecting nothing. The woman at the front of the church surprised her. White woman. Perhaps 35, sharp eyes. Uniform Vera didn't recognize. She introduced herself as Captain Elara Whitmore, Office of Strategic Services. Most attendees had never heard of the OSS, established only months earlier. America's first centralized intelligence agency, operating in shadows, recruiting unconventional candidates. Captain Whitmore spoke plainly. I'm looking for people who can accomplish things others cannot, people with strategic thinking capability, unusual patience, exceptional precision, people who can operate independently in hostile environments. She paused, scanned the room. I'm specifically looking for people the enemy will underestimate. After the presentation, Vera approached. Captain Whitmore was packing papers into a leather case. I can shoot. I can measure to thousandths of an inch. I can maintain focus for 12 hours without performance degradation. Captain Whitmore looked up, really looked, not the dismissive glance from army recruiters. An assessing gaze. Name? Vera Blackwell. Where do you work? Baldwin Locomotive, Ammunition Division, Quality Control Inspector. Your defect rate? 0.003%. Captain Whitmore's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. That's not statistically possible with human visual inspection. It's documented. Verify with my supervisor, Wallace Grant. A long pause. Then Captain Whitmore set down her case. Walk with me. They left the church, walked South Street in cold February evening. Captain Whitmore didn't speak for nearly a full block. Finally, the Soviet Union is deploying women in direct combat roles, pilots, tank operators, machine gunners, snipers. They've achieved remarkable success. Over 200 female snipers currently operational on the Eastern Front. Vera stayed silent, listening. The OSS has been asked to provide advisors, Americans with specialized skills who can train alongside Soviet forces, learn their methodologies, share American perspectives. It's an unusual arrangement born from unusual wartime partnerships. You want me to go to the Soviet Union? I want to know if you'd consider it. I tried enlisting 3 times. They said women can't serve. The regular military has regulations. The OSS has missions. Missions sometimes require unconventional approaches. They walked another half block. If you volunteer, you'll face discrimination from multiple directions. You'll be American in a foreign military system, woman in combat role, black woman in predominantly white organization. Training will be brutal, conditions harsh. Sniper survival rates are among the lowest of any specialty. Captain Whitmore stopped, faced Vera directly. But I've read your factory evaluations, examined your defect rate, asked questions about you. Do you know what people say? That I'm unnatural, too focused, too precise, inhuman. Exactly. Those are the qualities that make exceptional snipers. Not marksmanship, though that helps. The ability to remain absolutely motionless for 12 hours while cold, hungry, terrified, and bored, to maintain perfect concentration despite every instinct screaming to move, to be patient when patience feels impossible. Vera felt something shift inside her chest. 3 rejections from recruiters. Now this. When do I start? The conversation continued 3 more hours. Captain Whitmore's temporary office above a pharmacy on Market Street. Maps covering walls, files stacked on metal desk. You'll spend 3 months at an OSS facility in Virginia. Basic Russian language instruction, Soviet military doctrine orientation, preliminary marksmanship assessment, then, if you qualify, transport to Soviet Union via Alaska. 3 weeks across the Bering Strait. You'll train at the Central Women's Sniper School outside Moscow. How many women are in this program? Currently 7. We're building slowly, testing viability before expansion. Why me specifically? Captain Whitmore pulled out Vera's file. Because every other candidate was selected for existing marksmanship skills, language capabilities, or intelligence analysis background. You're the first person we've found with something different. What? Inhuman patience. The ability to perform identical precise actions 12 hours daily, 6 days weekly, for years, without degradation, without complaint, without error. She closed the file. Sniping isn't about shooting. Most soldiers can learn accuracy. Sniping is about waiting, watching, remaining motionless while every muscle screams, staying focused while bored and terrified simultaneously. You've been training for this your entire working life without knowing it. Vera signed papers that night. By March 1942, she was on a train to Virginia. OSS training facility, Blue Ridge Mountains, March through August 1942. The facility occupied a converted hunting lodge. Isolated, surrounded by dense forest, perfect for teaching people to disappear. 15 women in Vera's training group, different backgrounds, an Olympic rifle shooter from California, a farm girl from Montana who'd hunted elk since childhood, a mathematics professor from Massachusetts, a telegraph operator from Texas, all white except Vera. The instructors were military, Army, Marines, intelligence backgrounds. One instructor commanded immediate respect, Colonel Rebecca Stone, 62 years old, combat nurse in World War I, seen trench warfare firsthand, lost both sons in this war, one at Bataan, one in the North Atlantic when his destroyer was torpedoed. She never smiled, never offered comfort, never tolerated excuses. First day of training, she addressed the group. You are here because someone believed you might be capable of something most soldiers are not. Do not mistake that for special treatment. You will be held to higher standards than male soldiers, scrutinized more critically. Your failures will be amplified, your successes dismissed as luck. She paused, made eye contact with each woman. That is unfair, unjust, and absolutely real. Your choice is simple. Your choice. Prove them wrong through flawless performance, or quit now and save everyone time. No one quit. Training was comprehensive. Russian language every morning, grammar, Cyrillic alphabet, military vocabulary. Vera struggled with languages. Her mind worked in measurements, not sounds. But she worked, studied, practiced. Afternoons were marksmanship, basic rifle handling, safety protocols, sight alignment, trigger control, progressive distance engagement, 100 yards, 200, 300. By May, they were hitting targets at 500 yards. Vera discovered unexpected aptitude, the same ability to detect thousandth-inch variations in shell casings translated to reading minute changes in sight picture, wind indicators, range estimation. Her breathing control was exceptional. Years standing at inspection stations had taught her to regulate breath, heartbeat, muscle tension. She could time shots between heartbeats, maintain absolute stillness for hours, calculate windage, elevation, and lead with remarkable speed. Instructor evaluation, May 15, 1942. Private Blackwell demonstrates natural sniper aptitude exceeding all current trainees. Ability to combine physical stillness with mental alertness is extraordinary. Patience exceeds soldiers with decade of experience. Recommend immediate advancement to complex scenario training. But it was the May exercise that changed everything. The exercise simulated combat, 6 targets in fortified position, defended by instructors playing enemy roles, 50 acres of forest. Mission: eliminate all 6 targets within 72 hours. Most trainees attacked immediately. Speed and aggression. 4 women completed the mission in 18 to 36 hours, all successful using conventional tactics. Vera took different approach. Day 1. Didn't fire a single shot, observed, catalogued patterns, noted when defenders changed positions, relaxed, became predictable. Day 2. Fired twice. Both deliberate misses. Close enough to be believable, far enough to clearly fail. The defending instructors noted the shots, increased alertness for approximately 1 hour, then relaxed. Dismissed her as incompetent or poorly equipped. Day 3. Fired 4 more times in morning, all misses. By afternoon, defenders had stopped reacting seriously. One instructor was actually napping during his shift. At 1500 hours, Vera fired 6 shots, 90 seconds. All 6 targets eliminated. Exercise evaluators were stunned. Colonel Stone called her to command post. "Explain your methodology, Private." Vera stood at attention. Mission parameters specified successful elimination, not time limit. I assessed that direct aggression would succeed, but would teach defenders to maintain constant vigilance. I chose to create false impression of incompetence. This led defenders to develop careless patterns. Once patterns were established, exploitation became simple. Long silence. Colonel Stone smiled. First time Vera had seen it. "That is the most sophisticated tactical analysis I've encountered from any trainee in my career. You didn't just complete the mission, you weaponized enemy psychology." To the other evaluators, "This methodology needs documentation. This is innovation." To Vera, "You've invented a new approach to sniper warfare. Question is whether it works against real enemies who won't respawn for next exercise." "Permission to speak, Colonel?" "Granted. Real enemies are more predictable than training instructors. Training instructors know it's exercise. Real enemies think they're safe. That makes them easier to deceive." Colonel Stone studied her for a long moment. "You're either brilliant or dangerously overconfident. We'll find out which." August 1942. Vera graduated top of class. Final evaluation. Private Vera Blackwell recommended for immediate deployment Soviet sniper training program. Demonstrates exceptional marksmanship, superior tactical analysis, psychological warfare capabilities beyond normal trainee expectations. Of particular note, development of deliberate miss strategy represents potentially significant innovation in sniper doctrine. Recommend field testing under combat conditions. September 1942. Vera boarded military transport. Virginia to Alaska. Crossed Bering Strait on supply ship. 3 weeks of travel, brutal conditions, freezing temperatures, constant darkness sailing north. Finally, Soviet Union. The Central Women's Sniper School occupied converted monastery outside Moscow. Approximately 200 women training at any time. The commandant was legendary, Ludmila Pavlichenko, 309 confirmed kills, most successful female sniper in history, 30 years old, hard, scarred, aged beyond years by what she'd seen. When Vera arrived, Pavlichenko looked at her exactly 5 seconds, then spoke in heavily accented English. "You are American, you are black, you are woman. 3 reasons enemy will underestimate you. This is advantage. Do not waste advantage." Training began immediately. Soviet approach differed from American methods. More emphasis on fieldcraft, camouflage, concealment, operating alone or in 2-person teams deep behind enemy lines, less emphasis on pure marksmanship. Soviets assumed sniper school students could already shoot. Pavlichenko's philosophy was simple. Shooting is easy, surviving is hard. Vera trained with Soviet women from across the Union. Farm girls from Ukraine, factory workers from Leningrad, teachers from Moscow, all driven by the same thing. Germans had invaded their homeland, killed their families, destroyed their cities. This wasn't abstract patriotism, this was survival. Vengeance. Vera was paired with spotter named Katya Volkov. 43 years old, 20 years older than Vera, she'd been schoolteacher in Leningrad before the war, lost husband first month of fighting, lost both sons during Leningrad siege. She spoke very little, moved with quiet efficiency of someone with nothing left to lose. They trained together 3 months, learning to communicate without words, hand signals, shared glances, trust that develops when your life depends on someone else's competence. December 1942, they graduated. Assigned to 6th Guards Army, deployed to Smolensk region, January 1943, Smolensk front. Winter warfare in conditions Vera had never imagined. Temperatures dropping to -30°C. Snow so deep, movement measured in meters per hour. German and Soviet lines separated by 500 to 2,000 meters of frozen forest. Vera and Katya operated as reconnaissance team initially, crawling into forward positions under darkness, observing German defensive structures, cataloging activity, reporting intelligence, not engaging, just watching, learning. First month, Vera didn't fire her rifle except during training exercises behind Soviet lines. She was learning rhythm, patterns, routines. By March 1943, she'd made 4 confirmed kills, careful shots, high-value targets, officers, specialists, each requiring days of observation and planning. But 4 kills in 3 months was low performance. Soviet snipers averaged 1 to 2 kills weekly. Late August, Vera's commander, Major Mikhail Volkov, summoned her to headquarters. Comrade Blackwell, 8 months deployed, 4 confirmed victories, unacceptable performance. I am studying enemy patterns, Comrade Major. For 8 months? Yes, Comrade Major. What have you learned in 8 months that required more than 8 days? How they think, how they relax, how they become careless when they believe threat is minimal. Volkov stared. Elaborate. German soldiers are disciplined when alert, but cannot maintain constant maximum vigilance. Over time, they develop routines, patterns, safe hours when they believe risk is lowest. If I engage aggressively, they maintain high alert constantly. If I engage ineffectively, they learn to dismiss threat. Carelessness creates vulnerability. Long pause. You are saying you have been deliberately ineffective. I am saying I have been patient.
Red Army does not value patience over results, comrade. Red Army values victory, Comrade Major. I am constructing conditions for significant victory, not incremental results. Volkov studied her. You have 1 month. If theory does not produce results, you will be reassigned to conventional infantry support. Understood, Comrade Major. Vera left headquarters knowing she was on borrowed time. 1 month to prove 3 weeks of patience could change everything. September 1943.
Vera intensified reconnaissance of German sector she'd been observing since March. Approximately 200 soldiers, fortified observation post, command bunker, machine gun positions. Through months of observation, she and Katya had identified patterns. Shift changes at predictable times, officers appearing in same locations at same hours, routines developed from months holding same positions. September 15th, Soviet intelligence intercepted German radio traffic. High-level meeting scheduled October 20th. Multiple divisions coordinating winter defensive preparations. Katya brought Vera the intelligence summary. They sat in their bunker, studying maps. "This is opportunity," Katya said in Russian. "If meeting happens, many officers in one location," Vera replied. "Yes, but you have no victories for weeks. Command thinks you are failing." "I know. This is risk. If you wait for October and fail, you go back to factory." Vera looked at calendar. September 15th to October 20th. 35 days. I need 3 weeks to condition them. Make them believe I am no threat. 3 weeks of missing deliberately? Yes. Katya was quiet for a long time. Then, I lost sons, husband. I fight because I have nothing left, except belief their deaths meant something. She looked directly at Vera. I trust you. I do not trust many people, but I trust you. If you say 3 weeks of failure leads to 1 day of victory, I believe you. Thank you. Do not thank me. Prove me right. September 23rd, 1943. The pattern would begin. 27 shots over 25 days. 27 deliberate failures, all leading to 6 minutes that would change everything. The pattern had begun. September 23rd through October 17th, 1943. 25 days, 27 shots, 0 confirmed kills. Each one a precisely calculated lesson in incompetence. Vera Blackwell was teaching the German forces that the sniper in these woods couldn't hit anything. Poor training, inadequate equipment, negligible threat. The question was whether they would learn the lesson well enough to die from it. Week 1 began with meticulous preparation. Vera and Katya established 3 primary observation positions around the German sector. Each position required 3 days to construct properly, camouflage arranged to withstand close inspection. Sight lines cleared without obvious disturbance, escape routes planned to the meter. This wasn't improvisation, this was engineering. September 23rd, 09:30 hours. Vera had been in first position for 14 hours, temperature -5 Celsius. Through her PE4 scope, she observed a German soldier step outside the fortified observation post. 600 meters distant, lighting cigarette, standing in same spot she'd observed him occupy 47 previous times. Predictable, routine, safe, he thought. Vera controlled her breathing, calculated windage 8 kilometers per hour from west, adjusted aim point for bullet drop at this range, 24 inches, then deliberately shifted her aim 30 centimeters left. The Mosin Nagant cracked. Recoil pushed against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched bullet impact. Wooden post, 30 centimeters left of soldier's head. Splinters flew. The soldier dove for cover, disappeared inside fortification within 3 seconds. Vera worked the bolt, chambered another round, did not fire again. Katya was already writing in her notebook. Shot 1, 09:32 hours. Target, observer, cigarette break. Miss left, 30 centimeters. Response, immediate dive to cover. Alert status raised. They remained motionless. The German response was textbook. Soldiers emerged from various positions, taking cover, scanning tree line, looking for muzzle flash, smoke, movement. Vera's position was perfectly concealed. They saw nothing. After 20 minutes, activity gradually subsided. Soldiers returned to normal routines. Through her scope, Vera observed an officer examining the bullet impact point. His body language told the story, gesturing toward forest, making dismissive hand wave. She couldn't hear words but understood meaning. Not serious threat. Katya whispered in Russian. He thinks you missed. Good. They remained in position 6 more hours, then withdrew under darkness. Katya's full report that evening. First engagement, deliberate miss. German response, initial alert, 20-minute duration, return to normal operations. Officer assessment appeared dismissive. Recommendation, continue pattern. This was shot 1 of 27. Shots 2 through 8 followed over the next week. September 25th, second position, 700 meters from different section of German line. Vera observed supply detail. 4 soldiers unloading ammunition from truck. One stood apart, smoking. Same routine every delivery. She aimed, calculated, then adjusted 40 centimeters right. Fired. Bullet struck truck's wooden panel. The soldier jumped, confused. His comrades dove for cover. Alert lasted 15 minutes, less than first engagement. When officer investigated, his response was faster. Examined impact point. Shook head, waved dismissively, returned to duties. Katya's note. Response duration decreasing. Threat assessment lowering. September 28th. Third position. 550 meters from command bunker itself. Dangerous proximity but necessary. German communications specialist emerged at 0900 hours every day. Same time. Checking external antennas. Vera had observed this routine 43 times. She waited until he was fully exposed on bunker's roof access. Aimed. Shifted 25 centimeters low. Fired. Bullet impacted sandbags below his position. He dropped flat. Scrambled down ladder. Alert response. 12 minutes. The investigating officer barely looked at impact point. Glanced at sandbags. Said something to subordinates. They laughed. Actually laughed. Katya translated body language. They are mocking you. Perfect. By September 30th, shot 9, the pattern was established. German response times had decreased from 20 minutes to under 10. Officers spent less time investigating. More importantly, soldiers were beginning to move with less caution during hours when Vera typically engaged. They were learning to feel safe, learning that the shooter in these woods was incompetent, exactly as planned. Week 2 brought visible erosion of German discipline, October 1st. Vera observed what she'd been waiting to see. A German soldier walked between positions at 1100 hours, area that 3 weeks ago would have been crossed at sprint using available cover. Now, casual walk, no concealment attempt. Through scope, she could see him talking to another soldier. Relaxed, unafraid. She fired. Deliberate miss 30 centimeters ahead of his path. The soldier stopped, looked annoyed, not terrified, walked faster, but didn't run. Alert response. 8 minutes. When officer investigated, he didn't even examine impact point closely, just waved dismissively and walked away. Message clear. This shooter is not worth serious concern. Over the next week, Vera identified 3 primary targets through detailed observation. She and Katya gave them names based on behavior patterns. The careful one, Major Ernst Weber. Distinctive bearing, always moved deliberately, always used cover effectively. Professional soldier, Eastern Front veteran, he'd survived years of combat by never being careless. But even he was beginning to relax. October 5th, Vera watched him stand in open for 45 seconds. 3 weeks ago, he would never have exposed himself for more than 10 seconds. The Wanderer. Lieutenant Hans Köhler, young, maybe 24, developed habit of walking perimeter at irregular intervals, sometimes used cover, sometimes walked openly. October 6th, he walked entire northern perimeter without once using available concealment. Vera could have taken the shot 20 times, didn't. The Smoker. Captain Friedrich Ott. Every day at 1500 hours, he emerged from command bunker, walked to same spot, smoked cigarette, surveyed surrounding terrain with binoculars. Military routine. Predictable. Vulnerable. He would be one of the first targets when the moment came. By mid-October, Katya's documentation had become extensive. Hand-drawn maps showing every position, timing charts for shift changes, identification sketches of 23 different officers and specialists, vulnerability windows calculated to the minute. She showed Vera the analysis. 3 weeks of watching, we know more about their routines than they know themselves. How many high-value targets identified? 23 officers, 15 specialists, communications, artillery observers, machine gun commanders. When meeting happens, how many will attend? Katya consulted intercepted intelligence. Radio traffic suggests 3 divisions coordinating, minimum 30 officers, possibly 40. Vera studied maps. Where will they gather? Outside command bunker, meeting inside, but they will emerge for breaks. German officers smoke heavily. They will want fresh air. How long will meetings last? Previous reports suggest 3 to 4 hours, breaks every 60 to 90 minutes. Vera calculated multiple breaks, 30 to 40 officers, all gathering in same location, all conditioned through 3 weeks of fake misses to believe she was incompetent. This will work. October 9th brought new intelligence that raised stakes considerably. Soviet forces were planning major offensive for October 25th, 5 days after German meeting. If German command structure remained intact and coordinated, they would respond effectively. Estimated Soviet casualties high. If German command structure was disrupted, confused, decapitated, their response would be delayed and uncoordinated. Estimated Soviet casualties significantly reduced. Major Volkov summoned Vera to headquarters. She expected relief of duty. Instead, he showed her offensive plans. "You have been ineffective for 8 months, Comrade Blackwell. Normally, reassignment would have occurred weeks ago, but your spotter, Comrade Volkov, has convinced me you are executing long-term strategy." He pointed to map. October 20th, German officers gather here. October 25th, we attack across this sector. If those officers are alive and coordinating, many Soviet soldiers die. If those officers are dead, fewer Soviet soldiers die. He looked at Vera directly. "I am giving you until October 20th to prove strategy works. If you succeed, you will have contributed significantly to saving Soviet lives. If you fail, you will be reassigned and your approach documented as failed experiment." "Understood, Comrade Major. I am told you have been firing at Germans for 3 weeks without achieving results." "That is correct, Comrade Major." "Explain why I should believe this is strategy rather than incompetence." Vera chose words carefully. "Because competence, Comrade Major, is not always measured by immediate results. Sometimes competence is measured by whether final result justifies intermediate costs." Volkov studied her. "You speak like philosopher. I need soldiers." "I am soldier who understands that mind is more powerful weapon than rifle." "Prove it." October 10th brought unexpected validation. Soviet military intelligence intercepted German counterintelligence report. The document had been filed 3 days earlier by German battalion intelligence officer. Subject: Ineffective enemy sniper operations, Sector 12. The report read, in translation, "Enemy sniper activity has been observed over past 14 days, 17 shots fired, 0 casualties inflicted. Assessment: inadequate training or inferior equipment. Threat level: negligible. Recommendation: no dedicated counter-sniper resources necessary. Standard security protocols sufficient." When Major Volkov showed Vera the intercepted document, she allowed herself a small smile. "They think I'm incompetent, Comrade Major." "They have documented it officially." "Good. That means when I demonstrate competence, they won't believe it until too late." This was the twist Vera had been constructing. The enemy hadn't just dismissed her as incompetent, they'd officially documented her as negligible threat. Filed paperwork, made institutional assessment, which meant when she wasn't incompetent anymore, their entire defensive posture would be based on false intelligence. She'd succeeded in becoming invisible through apparent failure. Week 3 brought final preparations. October 12th, German radio intercept confirmed final details. Meeting scheduled 1000 hours, October 20th. Expected duration 3 to 4 hours. Approximately 40 officers from 3 divisions. Vera and Katya began establishing 3 final positions. Primary, 473 meters from command bunker. Optimal sightlines, excellent cover and concealment, viable escape route. Decoy, 700 meters, different angle, pre-positioned to draw counterfire away from primary. Escape, 200 meters behind primary. Fallback position if extraction under fire became necessary. Each position required days to construct properly. Camouflage withstanding close inspection. Sightlines cleared without obvious disturbance. Escape routes planned to meter. October 15th. Vera fired her final conditioning shots. 3 more deliberate misses over 2 days. By now, German response was almost dismissive. Soldiers barely took cover. Officers didn't investigate impact points. One soldier made obscene gesture toward Forrest after shot impacted nearby, mocking the incompetent shooter. Katya recorded it. Enemy contempt complete, conditioning successful. That same day, Vera noticed concerning development. Her left foot, 3 toes had lost feeling. Frostbite, not severe yet, but developing. Weeks of lying motionless in freezing conditions. Inadequate circulation. The medic examined her. You need rest, warm environment, or you risk permanent damage. After October 20th, damage may be permanent by then. I understand. She returned to preparations. Frostbite was acceptable cost. October 16th. Katya revealed something she'd been hiding. They were in their bunker preparing final equipment checks. Katya reached into her coat, pulled out folded paper, Soviet military communication form, orders. This arrived September 29th. You are ordered to report headquarters October the 23rd for reassignment to infantry support duties. Effective performance rating unsatisfactory. Vera stared at the paper. You hid this from me. Yes. Why? Because I see what you are building. I understand patience. I was teacher for 20 years. Patience is how you teach children others have given up on. You show them small successes. You wait. You trust. Process. Katya folded the paper, put it back in her coat. Command does not understand patience. They see 0 kills for weeks and judge failure. But I see pattern. I see Germans becoming careless. I see trap forming. If this doesn't work, then I will also be reassigned for hiding orders. We fail together or succeed together. Vera felt something shift. Gratitude, trust. This woman had lost everything. Husband, sons, home. Had every reason to be bitter, broken, focused only on survival. Instead, she was risking her career on faith in unproven strategy. Thank you. Do not thank me. Prove me right. October 17th, 2000 hours. Final movement into position. Vera and Katya carried supplies for 5 days. Ammunition, water, rations, cold weather gear, medical supplies. Everything they might need if extraction was delayed. They moved slowly, 100 meters per hour, stopping frequently to ensure they weren't observed. By 0200 hours, October 18th, they reached primary position, 473 meters from German command bunker. Vera settled into hide she'd constructed 3 days earlier. Arranged camouflage, established sight picture through scope. Command bunker clearly visible, area where officers would gather during breaks. Perfect. Katya positioned herself 2 meters left, binoculars ready, notebook ready. They would remain in this exact position for next 40 hours minimum. No movement except millimeters at a time, no sound, no comfort. This was what separated snipers from regular soldiers, ability to endure discomfort that would break most people, to remain focused despite cold, hunger, pain, boredom, to wait. October 18th passed slowly. Temperature dropped to -15 Celsius as night fell. Vera's toes were numb, frostbite spreading. She ignored it, focused on target area. German activity was normal, shift changes, supply deliveries, routine patrols, no indication they suspected observation. At 1200 hours, Vera watched the smoker emerge for daily cigarette. Captain Friedrich Ott stood in usual spot, completely exposed, vulnerable. She could have taken the shot, didn't. Tomorrow he would die, along with several others. But today, he lived, unaware he was being watched by someone who'd spent 3 weeks teaching him to feel safe. Night fell. Temperature continued dropping. Vera and Katya took turns maintaining observation. 2-hour shifts. The one off duty would rest but not sleep. Couldn't risk deep sleep. Had to remain alert enough to respond immediately if needed. At 0300 hours, October 19th, it began to rain. cold rain, soaking through clothing, making concealment positions muddy, threatening to reveal outlines they couldn't move to adjust, had to remain exactly where they were, let rain soak them, let cold penetrate, endure. By dawn, October 19th, both women were hypothermic, shivering uncontrollably, but they maintained position, maintained discipline. This was the cost, not the shooting. This, the suffering before shooting, the patience required to endure conditions that would make most people quit. October 19th, morning, German activity increased. At 0900 hours, Vera observed first staff cars arriving, Mercedes, Opel, military vehicles, officers emerging, unfamiliar faces, higher ranks than local garrison, division commanders, senior staff, arriving for tomorrow's meeting. By 1000 hours, 17 vehicles had arrived. Katya counted officers. At least 32 visible, probably more inside already. Through scope, Vera observed them, walking between command bunker and temporary billeting, laughing, smoking, casual, confident. They thought they were safe behind defensive lines, protected by distance from Soviet positions, secure. At 1500 hours, the smoker emerged as usual, but this time he wasn't alone. 3 other officers joined him, all smoking, all standing in open, all completely vulnerable. Vera watched through scope, calculated ranges, wind conditions, firing solutions. Tomorrow she would fire, but today was still conditioning, still teaching them they were safe. At 1530 hours, one junior officer looked directly toward Vera's position, not seeing her. Camouflage was perfect, but looking in her direction. For a moment, Vera wondered if he sensed something, some instinct, warning. Then he laughed at something another officer said, turned away, went back inside, alive, for now. October 19th, evening. Rain stopped. Temperature dropped further, -18 Celsius. Vera's hands were shaking, not from fear, from cold, from 40 hours without proper movement. From frostbite, damage spreading up foot. Katya whispered, "Can you still shoot?" "Yes." "Your hands are shaking." "They'll steady when needed." "How do you know?" "Because I've done this 12 hours daily for 3 years in factory, holding calipers steady while exhausted, cold, hungry, body learns." Katya was quiet for a moment. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "If this doesn't work tomorrow, if you fail, command will not just reassign you, they will likely send you back to America. Failed experiment. Waste of resources. I know. And I will be sent to punishment battalion for hiding orders." Vera turned her head slightly, first movement in hours, looked at Katya. "Why did you risk that?" Katya's face was weathered, aged beyond her 43 years by grief and war. "Because my sons died first month of war. Conscripts, untrained. Sent to hold positions against tanks with rifles. They died because commanders made stupid decisions. Valued immediate action over smart strategy." She paused. "You are first person I have seen who understands that patience is strategy, that waiting is not cowardice, that sometimes smart decision is to do nothing until moment when doing something matters most. What if I'm wrong? Then we fail. But at least we fail attempting something intelligent, better than succeeding at something stupid." They settled back into observation. Night fell. October 20th was 6 hours away. At 0400 hours October 20th, Vera had been in position 54 hours total. No sleep, only brief periods of reduced alertness. Body was shutting down from cold and exhaustion. But mind remained focused. This was the day. Everything came down to next 12 hours. At 600 hours, dawn broke, grey light filtering through clouds, temperature still -15. At 900 hours, more staff cars arrived, 12 additional vehicles, officers emerging, gathering outside command bunker, smoking, talking, confident, casual. At 0930 hours, senior officer emerged that Vera hadn't seen before, Oberst rank insignia, colonel. He walked directly to Major Weber, the careful one. They spoke briefly. Weber nodded, gestured toward bunker entrance. At 1000 hours exactly, officers began filing inside. Meeting was beginning. Vera knew from intercepted intelligence these meetings typically lasted 3 to 4 hours, with breaks. Germans were meticulous about scheduling breaks. First break, typically 1,200 hours. Second break, 1,400 hours. She would wait. Everything depended on waiting. At 10:47 hours, Katya nudged gently, pointed. Officers emerging, not scheduled break. Too early, perhaps bathroom break, or urgent message. 3 officers, standing outside bunker entrance, one lit cigarette. Vera's scope was already trained on area. She'd been maintaining sight picture for hours. Range, 473 meters. Wind, 8 kilometers per hour from northwest. Slight downward angle. She calculated firing solution automatically. Years of practice. Held aim on smoking officer. Then deliberately shifted 1 meter right. Final conditioning shot, teaching them one last time she couldn't hit them. She fired. Mohsin Nagant cracked. Bullet struck wooden bunker frame exactly 1 meter from officers. Splinters flew. All 3 officers dove inside. Alert response began. Soldiers emerged from positions. Scanning. Looking for shooter who'd been ineffective 3 weeks. Not seriously concerned, just following procedure. Vera watched through scope. After 5 minutes, she saw Major Weber emerge briefly. He looked toward impact point, made dismissive gesture, said something to subordinates. They visibly relaxed. Weber went back inside, message clear. Same incompetent shooter, not serious threat. Perfect. At 1200 hours, first scheduled break occurred. 7 officers emerged, stretching, smoking, talking. Vera tracked them through scope. Not yet, not enough targets. She needed maximum concentration. At 12:45 hours, bunker door opened wide. Officers began emerging in groups. 5, then 7 more, then another 6. 23 officers total outside. Largest gathering she'd observed in 6 months of reconnaissance. They stood in open, no defensive posture, some smoking, some consulting papers, some just enjoying fresh air after hours in cramped bunker, all vulnerable, all conditioned through 3 weeks of fake misses to believe sniper in these woods was no threat. Vera's breathing slowed, hands stopped shaking, cold, faded from awareness. Everything narrowed to sight picture, wind calculation, range estimation, target selection, 3 weeks of patience, 27 deliberate failures, 54 hours in this exact position, all leading to this moment. She selected first target, Major Ernst Weber, the careful one. Professional who should have known better, who'd survived years of Eastern Front combat, who'd finally, after 3 weeks of conditioning, allowed himself to relax. Crosshairs settled on his chest. Center mass. No more deliberate misses. No more teaching. Only execution. She exhaled slowly. Let breath settle. In natural pause between heartbeats, she pressed the trigger. October 20th, 1943. 12:45 hours and 12 seconds. The bullet left Vera Blackwell's rifle at 828 meters per second, traveling through air at -15 Celsius, density altered by cold, trajectory affected by northwest wind at 8 kilometers per hour, 473 meters of flight, time 0.57 seconds. In that fraction of a second, the world continued as normal. Major Ernst Weber stood outside the German command bunker, cigarette between his fingers, discussing supply routes with Captain Friedrich Ott, and a junior lieutenant whose name Vera didn't know. 20 other officers milled about nearby, stretching after 2 hours in a cramped meeting room, smoking, laughing at something someone had said, comfortable, safe, protected by weeks of learning that the shooter in these woods was harmless. The bullet entered Weber's chest 3 centimeters left of sternum, penetrating the thoracic cavity, severing the aortic arch. Death was instantaneous. His brain didn't process what had happened. One moment, standing, speaking, alive. Next moment, nervous system shut down. Collapse. He hit the frozen ground before the sound of the shot reached the other officers. For exactly 2.3 seconds, no one moved. The human brain requires time to process unexpected trauma. Weber had been speaking. Now he was on the ground. Blood spreading across snow. The officer's mind struggled to connect cause and effect. Then someone screamed, "Präzisionsschütze!" Precision shooter, not sniper. The word choice mattered, because in that scream, that officer had just realized something terrifying. The incompetent shooter who'd missed for 3 weeks hadn't been incompetent at all. Every miss had been deliberate, every shot placed exactly where intended, teaching them to dismiss the threat. And now, chaos erupted. 22 officers running in every direction, diving for cover, scrambling toward doorways, panic, pure, undiluted panic, because the rules had just changed. The safe zone was no longer safe. The shooter they'd learned to ignore was now the most dangerous thing in their world. Through her scope, Vera watched the scatter pattern, tracked movement, selected targets with clinical precision. Katya beside her whispered in Russian. Communications, running left, blue-collar tabs. Vera shifted aim, found him, 28 years old maybe, sprinting hard for the bunker entrance, 20 meters from safety. She calculated his speed. 4.2 meters per second, panicked run, inefficient, arms pumping too high, where he would be in 0.6 seconds. She led the target, aimed at empty air 3 meters ahead of him. Exhaled, pressed trigger. 12:45 hours and 23 seconds. The communications officer's legs went out from under him mid-stride. Momentum carried him forward. He slid 5 meters across frozen ground. Stopped. Didn't move again. Vera worked the bolt. Smooth, mechanical. The motion she'd practiced 10,000 times. Muscle memory so ingrained she didn't think about it. Just executed. German soldiers were returning fire now. Random shots into the forest. Muzzle flashes visible even in daylight. Desperation shooting. None of it close to Vera's actual position. They were firing at the decoy position 700 meters northwest. The position she'd made slightly obvious. Knowing stressed soldiers shoot at the first plausible target, not the actual threat. Katya. Spotter. Binoculars. Northeast sandbags. Partial cover. Vera found him. Young. Frightened. Pressed against sandbags that looked like protection. They were protection. From frontal fire. From most angles. But Vera had spent 6 months studying geometry. From her specific position at 43 degrees oblique, those sandbags created no shadow. The spotter thought he was hidden. Through her scope, Vera could see his entire upper body. She fired. 12:45 hours and 35 seconds. The spotter's binoculars fell. He slumped sideways. 3 kills, 23 seconds of shooting. But years of preparation. A German captain was organizing a response. Professional soldier, trying to establish fire discipline, shouting orders, getting soldiers into proper defensive positions, attempting to locate the actual shooter position through tactical analysis rather than panic. Good officer, doing exactly what training taught. He was crouched behind a wooden support beam. Thought he had cover. The beam was 12 centimeters wide at its thickest point. His shoulder extended past it. 14 centimeters of exposure. Vera could see it clearly. She fired. 12:45 hours and 48 seconds. The captain's shoulder jerked backward. He spun, hit the ground. His soldiers watched their leader fall. The organized response collapsed back into panic. 4 kills. A senior major emerged from the bunker entrance, drawn by the gunfire, trying to understand the situation. He scanned the area, saw bodies, saw chaos, started to raise his hands to shout orders, never finished the gesture. Vera fired. 1,246 hours and 5 seconds. The major went down on the bunker steps, his body blocking the doorway. Officers trying to escape had to climb over him, slowing their movement, creating a bottleneck. 5 kills, 93 seconds total elapsed time. Inside the command bunker, Oberst Heinrich Kraus was trying to understand what was happening. Radio reports were contradictory. Multiple snipers. Unknown number of attackers. Heavy casualties. He grabbed the field telephone, demanded situation report. The response was garbled. Panicked voices. Screaming. Gunfire. Kraus had commanded on the Eastern Front for 2 years. Survived Stalingrad, led retreats under impossible conditions. He was not a man who panicked easily, but the voice on the other end of that telephone was his most experienced company commander, and that commander was terrified. "Sir, we have 5 officers down, 6, 7. We can't locate the shooter. The fire is coming from, no, wait, different angle. Multiple positions, sir. The line went dead. Krauser made a decision. Full defensive protocol, all outdoor movement suspended, all officers inside immediately, artillery strike on suspected sniper positions, standard doctrine, textbook response. What he didn't know, the sniper executing his officers was one woman with 1 rifle, who'd spent 3 weeks teaching his forces to underestimate her, who was now teaching a different lesson entirely. Outside, Captain Friedrich Ott was running. The smoker, the man who'd stood in the same spot every day at 1,500 hours for 3 months, who'd developed such predictable routine that Katya had documented every gesture. He was sprinting now, terror visible in every movement. 30 meters of open ground between his position and the bunker's east entrance. He'd covered 18 meters, 12 remaining. Vera tracked him through the scope, leading the target, accounting for panic speed, fired. 1,246 hours and 22 seconds.
Ott fell forward, slid across ice, stopped 11 meters from safety. So close. 6 kills. Lieutenant Hans Köhler, the Wanderer, was pressed against the bunker's north wall. The young officer who'd walked perimeters without cover for weeks, who'd made obscene gestures toward the forest 5 days ago. Mocking the incompetent sniper, he wasn't mocking now. He was praying, pressed flat against concrete. Thought the wall protected him. It did protect him from frontal fire.
From most angles, not from Vera's position, 43 degrees oblique, elevated by 30 meters of terrain, the angle created by that geometry meant the wall cast no shadow for him, no protection. Full exposure. He never understood this. Vera fired. 1,246 hours and 40 seconds. Köhler collapsed against the wall he'd trusted to save him. 7 kills. 1 target remaining that Vera could acquire, an artillery coordination specialist. She'd watched him for weeks, always with maps, always coordinating fire missions. He'd crawled into a terrain depression. Smart tactical decision, using ground rather than man-made cover. The depression was 18 centimeters deep, adequate concealment from ground-level observation, completely inadequate against elevated sniper fire. Vera could see his entire back. She fired. 12:47 hours and 15 seconds. The specialist stopped moving. 8 confirmed kills. The remaining German officers had found genuine cover or made it inside the bunker. Vera scanned through her scope. No targets visible. All movement had ceased. She lowered the rifle slightly, maintained sight picture, ready to engage if anyone emerged. They didn't. They'd learned. Katya was writing in her notebook, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, from adrenaline, from witnessing something she understood was historic. 1245 to 12. Major, command position, center mass, immediate fatality. 1245 to 23. Communications officer, running, torso, immediate fatality. 1245-35. Artillery spotter, partial cover northeast, upper chest, immediate fatality. 1245-48. Captain, organizing defense, exposed shoulder, delayed fatality, estimated 30 seconds. 1246-05. Senior major, bunker entrance, headshot, immediate fatality. 1246-22. Captain, open movement, torso, immediate fatality. 1246-40. Lieutenant, north wall, false cover, side torso, immediate fatality. 1247-15. Artillery specialist, terrain depression, back shot, immediate fatality. 8 confirmed kills. 6 minutes, 2 seconds total engagement time. Remaining enemy forces withdrawn to cover. Area denial complete. She looked at Vera. Neither woman spoke. What was there to say? 3 weeks of patience, 27 deliberate failures, 54 hours in this exact position without real sleep. All culminating in 6 minutes of perfect execution. The plan had worked. Better than expected. Katya reached over, squeezed Vera's shoulder once, brief contact, acknowledgement. Then both women settled into absolute stillness. Because now came the dangerous part. The response. At 12:50 hours, German artillery began. The first shells landed 700 meters northwest of Vera's position. Exactly where the decoy position was located. Exactly where Vera had expected them to concentrate fire. The barrage was massive, 155mm shells, impact explosions visible even at this distance, trees disintegrating, earth fountaining upward, shrapnel spreading in lethal radius. If Vera had been there, she would have been vaporized, but she wasn't there. She was 473 meters southeast, lying motionless, listening to artillery destroy empty forest. Katya counted impacts, whispered numbers in Russian. 50, 75, 100. The barrage continued for 1 hour and 47 minutes. Over 800 shells. Vera calculated the resource expenditure. Ammunition that could have been used against Soviet armor, against infantry positions, against actual targets, instead obliterating nothing, shooting at a ghost. When the artillery finally stopped, silence fell. Unnatural silence. The forest that had stood for centuries was now splintered wreckage, smoking craters, chemical smell of explosives heavy in the cold air. At 15:30 hours, German infantry began sweeps. Vera could hear them. Systematic movement through the destroyed sector, clearing the area where they believed the sniper had been. They found nothing, because nothing was there. By 1700 hours, they expanded the search pattern, moved outward from the destroyed zone, covered ground in overlapping sectors. Professional search, well executed, they passed within 28 meters of Vera's actual position. Twice, walked right past. Her camouflage was perfect. Branches arranged to blend with natural growth. Position selected to break up human outline. Zero unnatural patterns. Zero indication anyone had ever been there. The Germans saw forest, not the 2 women who'd been lying there for 56 hours. At 18:30 hours, darkness began falling. The search teams withdrew. German doctrine didn't permit night operations in forest without illumination support. Too dangerous. Too easy for Soviet forces to ambush searchers. By 2000 hours, the German lines had settled into defensive posture. Maximum alert. Everyone inside hardened positions. No movement. No exposure. Complete defensive lockdown. Perfect. At 2200 hours, Vera finally moved. Millimeters at a time, fingers, toes, shoulders, restoring circulation. The pain was extraordinary. 56 hours in near freezing conditions without real movement. Her left foot was completely numb. The frostbite that had started days ago had progressed. Tissue damage was severe. Permanent. She knew it, didn't care. Mission accomplished. Katya moved beside her, gathering equipment, notebook, maps, binoculars, everything packed with surgical precision. Leave no trace, no evidence, nothing for German intelligence to analyze. They began extraction, crawling. 100 meters per hour, constant vigilance, stopping every 15 meters to listen, watch, ensure no detection. The temperature had dropped to -20 Celsius. Clear sky, stars, visible. Beautiful night, lethal, cold. They moved through it anyway. By 100 hours, October 21st, they'd covered 600 meters. By 2:45 hours, they could see Soviet forward positions. Sentries challenged them. Password exchange. Relief visible on the sentries' faces when they recognized the two women who'd left 3 days ago. Command wants immediate report, comrades. At 03:15 hours, Vera and Katya stood before Major Mikhail Volkov. Battalion intelligence officer present, recording equipment running. Katya presented her notebook. Volkov read in silence. 2 minutes. 3. Finally looked up. You achieved 8 high-value eliminations in 6 minutes. Yes, Comrade Major. After deliberately missing for 3 weeks. Yes, Comrade Major. Explain your methodology. Vera spoke for 20 minutes. Psychological conditioning, creating false impressions through consistent behavior, exploiting enemy doctrine that assumed snipers sought immediate results, teaching targets to feel safe through apparent incompetence, then exploiting that safety at maximum tactical advantage. Volkov listened without interruption. When Vera finished, "This is the most sophisticated sniper operation documented in this war, possibly in any war." He closed the notebook. "You will prepare complete tactical analysis, every detail. This methodology will be incorporated into training doctrine immediately." "Yes, Comrade Major. But first, medical evaluation. Your foot is damaged. You are no use to the Red Army if frostbite costs you mobility." The medical officer's assessment confirmed what Vera already knew. 3 toes on her left foot, severe frostbite. Tissue necrosis advanced. Circulation compromised. Permanent damage. She would walk with pain for the rest of her life. Limited mobility. Chronic arthritis likely. The cost of 56 hours lying motionless at -15 Celsius. Vera accepted the diagnosis without complaint. "Can I continue field operations?" "For how long?" "As long as necessary." "The damage will worsen with continued cold exposure." "I understand. Can I continue?" The doctor looked at her, saw something in her eyes that made him answer honestly, "Yes, until you physically cannot, which will be soon." "Then I continue." The intelligence impact became clear within 48 hours. German radio intercepts showed immediate changes. Defensive protocols updated across entire Army Group Center. All outdoor officer gatherings prohibited. Movement restricted to night hours or heavy weather only. Meetings relocated to underground bunkers exclusively. Counter-sniper teams deployed to every sector. Resources diverted from offensive operations. Soviet intelligence analysts quantified the impact. Estimated 38% reduction in German coordination efficiency. Response times to Soviet movements increased by average 42 minutes. Command decisions delayed due to difficulty assembling senior staff. All traceable directly to psychological impact of October 20th operation. 8 German officers killed, but hundreds of German officers now operating under severe constraints. Fear multiplying effect beyond the actual casualties. The invisible threat more powerful than visible enemy. 1 woman, 1 rifle, 6 minutes of shooting. Weeks of strategic impact. The mathematics of psychological warfare. October 25, 1943, the Soviet offensive launched as planned. 5 divisions attacking across the Smolensk sector. German response was delayed, uncoordinated. Officers who should have been coordinating defense were separated, unable to gather for tactical planning, communication degraded by fear of radio intercept, decision-making paralyzed by decentralized command. The offensive succeeded beyond projections. Soviet casualties, 41% below estimated. Territorial gains, 23% above objective. German forces withdrew in disorder. Post-battle analysis credited multiple factors, but intelligence reports specifically noted enemy command disruption following October 20th sniper operation created exploitable vulnerability in defensive coordination. Vera never saw those reports, didn't need to. She understood what she'd accomplished. 8 kills that saved hundreds of lives. That was the mathematics that mattered. November through February 1944, Vera continued operations, always using the same methodology. Weeks of observation, deliberate misses first, conditioning enemy psychology, patient waiting, then sudden, devastating accuracy when maximum tactical advantage presented. She trained 12 Soviet snipers in the technique, formal instruction sessions, practical demonstrations. Psychological theory. One trainee, a woman named Marina Sokolova, achieved 41 confirmed kills over 4 months using Vera's methodology. Another, Anna Petrova, became training instructor herself. Spreading the doctrine, the Blackwell method, formal designation, psychological conditioning through apparent incompetence, classified, restricted, not for general distribution, only for sniper specialists with demonstrated tactical understanding. By February 1944, Vera's total confirmed kills reached 43, not the highest number among Soviet snipers, but achieved through methods that multiplied effectiveness. Every kill she made created paranoia affecting hundreds of enemy soldiers. Fear as a weapon. Invisible, incalculable, more devastating than bullets. March 15, 1944. Forward observation position. Routine reconnaissance. Vera and Katya had been in position for 18 hours, watching German supply routes, documenting movement patterns, no engagement planned, intelligence gathering only. At 14:23 hours, German artillery opened fire. Random harassment mission, not targeted, just standard procedure. Shells landing across suspected Soviet observation areas. Bad luck, terrible luck. One shell impacted 7.3 meters from their position. Shrapnel spread in deadly cone. Katya was killed instantly. Metal fragment penetrated skull just above left ear. Death was immediate. No pain, no awareness, no final words. She was alive. Then she wasn't. Vera was thrown backward by the blast. Multiple shrapnel wounds in left leg. Severe bleeding. Partial hearing loss from concussion. Burns across right side from explosion flash. She lay there for 4.6 seconds, trying to understand what had happened. Then she saw Katya, motionless, blood pooling. Vera tried to crawl to her. Leg wouldn't respond properly. Shrapnel had severed muscle. She dragged herself anyway. Reached Katya, checked pulse. Nothing, no breath, no life. 43 years old. Widow who'd lost 2 sons, teacher who'd become warrior, spotter who'd trusted when no one else believed, friend, dead. Soviet medics arrived 6 minutes later, extracted Vera under continued artillery fire, tried to bring Katya's body, too dangerous, recovered her the next day, buried with military honors, small ceremony, 20 people, nobody from her family. They were all dead, killed in Leningrad siege. Vera attended from hospital bed, couldn't walk, leg wounds too severe. She listened to the ceremony, listened to officers praise Katya's service, listened to words that didn't capture who she'd been. When they asked if Vera wanted to speak, she said, "Katya Volkov taught me that trust is the foundation of everything. She trusted a strategy everyone thought was insane. She documented when others dismissed. She believed when others doubted. She gave me the time I needed when command wanted immediate results. She was the better soldier. I was just lucky enough to survive telling her story." Medical evaluation after ceremony was definitive. Leg wounds too severe for continued field operations. Hearing damage affected tactical awareness. Combat service terminated. Vera Blackwell was going home. June 1945. Philadelphia. Federal Street looked exactly as she'd left it. Same row houses, same worn steps, same neighbors, sitting on porches in evening heat. Her parents had aged. Father's hands shook worse now. Mother's eyes were milky with cataracts. They embraced her at the door, asked no questions about the limp, the hearing aid, the scars visible on her hands and neck. Didn't ask about the war, didn't ask what she'd done, just welcomed her home. That night, lying in her childhood bed, Vera stared at the ceiling. Same ceiling, same cracks in plaster she'd memorized as a child. Everything familiar, everything alien. She'd killed 43 people, saved 400, changed warfare doctrine, and now she was back in a 10 by 12 room in Philadelphia, listening to her father snore through thin walls. The disconnect was total. The OSS had been dissolved in October 1945, replaced by nothing immediately, eventually became CIA. But in 1946, bureaucratic chaos, records scattered, personnel discharged without proper documentation. Vera's service was classified, deep classified. Soviet partnership was politically problematic. Female combat role didn't fit acceptable narratives. Her file was sealed. No public recognition, no veterans' benefits initially. Technical oversight, she'd served with foreign military. Didn't qualify for GBY bill under existing regulations. She appealed twice, denied both times. Insufficient documentation of eligible service. She had documentation, it was classified, which meant she couldn't present it, which meant she couldn't prove service, which meant no benefits. Bureaucratic catch-22, she took her old job back. Philadelphia Navy Yard machinist, quality control inspector. The same precision work she'd done before the war. Same tolerances, same focus. Except now her hands sometimes shook. Frostbite damage, nerve trauma, she worked through it, learned to compensate. Her defect rate increased slightly, from 0.003% to 0.008%, still 60 times better than facility average, still exceptional. Just not perfect anymore. Perfection had cost 3 toes and a friend's life. In 1947, she married Luther Hayes, fellow machinist, Navy veteran, served on destroyer in Pacific, seen combat at Leyte Gulf. They understood each other without needing words. The silence of people who'd experienced things civilians couldn't comprehend. Their courtship was brief, 3 months. Luther proposed simply, "We both know what war is. We both know what matters. Will you marry me?" Yes. They married at City Hall. Small ceremony, her parents, his mother, 2 co-workers as witnesses, no reception, just dinner at small restaurant on Market Street. They bought a house in Fishtown. Modest. Affordable on 2 machinist salaries, had 2 children. Daughter Michelle, born 1949, son Thomas, born 1951. Vera was a mother now, not a sniper, not a warrior. A mother who worked full-time, who came home tired, who helped with homework, who attended parent-teacher conferences, who never discussed what she'd done between 1942 and 1944. When Michelle asked at age 8 why Mommy limped, Vera said, "Factory accident," not frostbite from lying in frozen mud for 56 hours while killing 8 German officers. When Thomas asked about the photo of a woman in Vera's drawer, the only photo Vera had of Katya, she said, "Friend from the war, not the woman who believed in me when everyone else thought I'd failed, who documented my kills, who died from artillery shrapnel while I survived, who I think about every single day." Simpler to lie, easier than watching them not understand. 34 years of silence, 1945 to 1979, Vera worked, raised children, became grandmother. Luther retired in 1975. They had 3 years together, traveling modestly, visiting grandchildren, peaceful years. Then 1978, heart attack. Luther died at 63, hospital room, Vera holding his hand. His last words, "You were the best thing that happened to me." Then, gone. Vera was 56, widow now, like Katya had been. The parallel wasn't lost on her. She continued working part-time, lived alone in the Fishtown house, saw children and grandchildren regularly. Normal life. Invisible veteran. Then, 1979. CIA began systematic declassification of OSS files. 34 years after war's end, historian named Robert Matthews was researching unconventional warfare, found reference to Operation Phantom Sniper, found Vera's name, tracked her to Philadelphia, contacted her by letter, asked for interview. Vera didn't respond for 3 weeks. Then finally, "You can come. Saturday afternoon. Bring your questions. Don't expect comfort." The interview took place in Vera's living room. Matthews brought recording equipment, notebook, prepared questions. Vera sat in her chair, the one Luther used to sit in, spoke for 6 hours, told the complete story. Factory work, OSS recruitment, Soviet training, fake miss strategy, October 20th, 1943, 6 minutes and 8 kills, Katya's death, the 43 total, the cost. Matthews listened without interruption, recorder running. When Vera finished, he sat quiet for a long time. Finally, "This is one of the most remarkable military operations I've encountered in 20 years of research. Why has no one heard this story?" Vera's answer was direct. "Because I'm a black woman who served with Soviets during a war America wants to remember as simple good versus evil. My story complicates that, so it gets filed away. It shouldn't be. Maybe. But I didn't serve for recognition. I served because it needed doing. Recognition now doesn't change what mattered then. What mattered then? Saving lives. 400 Soviet and American soldiers who lived because 8 Germans died. That mathematics, that's what I carry." Matthews published his research in 1982. Military History Quarterly. Academic Journal. Circulation 4,000. Most people never saw it. But the people who mattered saw it. Military historians, doctrine specialists, sniper school instructors. They started paying attention. 1985, invitation to speak at U.S. Army Sniper School, Fort Benning, Georgia. Vera was 63 years old, pronounced limp, hearing aid visible, hands showing tremor. The instructors were skeptical. This elderly woman was supposed to teach them. She didn't give traditional lecture. Told story instead, not about kills, about patience, about understanding that competence sometimes requires appearing incompetent, about the difference between achieving results and achieving the right results at the right time. She ended with, "You're learning from me because I survived. That makes me lucky, not heroic." The hero was Katya Volkov. She believed when belief required faith. She documented when others dismissed. She died doing her job. Learn from her sacrifice. Remember her name, not just mine. Because sniping isn't about the shooter. It's about the team. And she was the better half of our team. One instructor, Captain James Rodriguez, asked, "Mom, when you fired that first real shot on October 20th, what were you thinking?" Vera considered carefully. "I was thinking about shell casings, about my father teaching me that precision matters because imprecision kills, about every defective round I'd prevented from leaving the factory, each one potentially saving a soldier's life. And I was thinking that these 8 men were somebody's sons, but killing them might save 400 other sons, that mathematics is terrible, but it's war. War is terrible mathematics. You make the calculation and you live with it." Silence. How do you live with it? Poorly, but you live because not living dishonors the ones who didn't get to make that choice. Katya didn't get to come home, so I come home, and I carry it for both of us. The Army incorporated Blackwell methodology into sniper doctrine that year. Formal designation, psychological conditioning, tactics for sniper operations, still taught today, usually without Vera's name attached. Just advanced psychological approach utilizing apparent incompetence to create target complacency. But the concept came from a woman in frozen mud. Understanding humans better than strategists understood war. 1990s brought more attention, documentaries, interviews, academic conferences. Vera accepted some invitations, declined most. Health declining, arthritis severe, walking painful, but mind remained sharp. 2000 traveled to Moscow, first time since 1944. Memorial dedication, Soviet women snipers, 2,000 names, 800 survived the war. Katya Volkov's name was there. Third panel, 17th name from top. Vera stood before it, touched the engraved letters. 56 years since Katya died. Since they'd lain together in frozen positions. Since Katya had trusted a plan everyone else thought was insane. Russian official asked Vera to speak. She said, Katya Volkov was 43 when she died. She'd lost everything that makes life worth living. Husband, sons, home. She had every reason to stop caring. Instead, she cared more. She gave me the time I needed when everyone wanted immediate results. She believed when belief was hardest. She was the better soldier. I was just the one who survived to remember. So I'm here to say her name, Katya Volkov. Say it with me. 200 people repeated. Katya Volkov. Vera nodded. Good. Now she's remembered. That's all that matters. 2005. Stroke. Severe. 83 years old. Left side paralysis. Speech affected. Vera spent her remaining years in assisted living facility. Fishtown Rehabilitation Center. Small room. Window overlooking street. Daughter Michelle visited daily, brought grandchildren, 5 total now. They knew grandmother had been in the war, didn't understand details. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that grandmother killed 43 people? That she invented psychological warfare tactics still used today? You don't. You let them know her as grandmother, who smiled when they visited, who listened to their stories about school, who was patient, always patient. February 2nd, 2009. Vera Blackwell died, 87 years old. Pneumonia, peaceful death. Daughter and son present, her last coherent words whispered to Michelle, tell them Katya's name. Important. Remember. Then, gone. The obituary in Philadelphia Inquirer was brief. Vera Blackwell Hayes, 87, of Philadelphia, retired machinist, Philadelphia Navy Yard, survived by daughter Michelle Torres, son Thomas Hayes, 5 grandchildren, veteran of World War II, memorial service Friday, 2 p.m. Laurel Hill Cemetery, private. 37 people attended funeral. 2 World War II veterans in attendance, both in their 80s, neither had known about Vera's service, found out at funeral when Michelle read prepared statement. My mother served in the Office of Strategic Services from 1942 to 1944. She operated as a sniper with Soviet forces. She achieved 43 confirmed kills and developed psychological warfare tactics still taught today. She saved an estimated 400 to 600 Allied lives through her operations. She never sought recognition. She carried the weight of what she'd done with dignity and silence. She would want you to remember not her kills, but her partner, Katya Volkov, who died March 15, 1944, and who believed in my mother when no one else did. The 2 veterans stood, saluted. One said, "We should have known. We should have honored her while she lived." Michelle replied, "She wouldn't have wanted that. She wanted to be normal. Let her have been normal." 2012. Pentagon declassified Vera's complete service records. 34 years after her death, the documentation was extensive. Katya's notebooks, after-action reports, intelligence assessments, German documents captured post-war confirming psychological impact. The numbers were extraordinary: 43 confirmed kills over 6 months, 27 deliberate misses over 3 weeks, 8 kills in 6 minutes. Psychological impact: 38% reduction in German operational efficiency across 4 divisions. Estimated Allied lives saved: 400 to 600. 12 Soviet snipers trained in her methodology. All documented, all verified, all ignored for 67 years. Modern military analysts studying the declassified records were unanimous. This represented one of the most sophisticated psychological warfare operations of World War II, executed by a 23-year-old woman with high school education and 3 years factory experience. 2018 Military Intelligence Hall of Fame. Vera Blackwell inducted posthumously. Michelle accepted the honor. Read statement Vera had written in 2006. If you're reading this, I'm dead and someone thinks I deserve recognition. Fine. But if you honor me, honor Katya Volkov equally. Honor the 400 who lived because 8 died. Honor my father who taught precision. My mother who taught endurance. Captain Ilara Whitmore who believed. Colonel Rebecca Stone who trained. Major Mikhail Volkov who gave me time. Honor everyone who makes a soldier effective, not just the one who pulls the trigger, because war is never one person. It's everyone who builds that person into someone capable of doing terrible things for necessary reasons. The ceremony was attended by 300 people: active duty military, veterans, historians, family. General Marcus Webb, Army Chief of Staff, gave closing remarks. Vera Blackwell proved that the most powerful weapon in warfare is not technology. It is understanding psychology, understanding patience, understanding that sometimes the most effective path to victory requires accepting the appearance of failure. Her methodology is still taught, still used, still saving lives, because the principles she discovered are timeless. The mind matters more than the equipment. Patience matters more than aggression. Strategy matters more than tactics. These truths transcend technology. They are human truths, and Vera Blackwell understood them better than most generals. Today, Vera's Mosin Nagant rifle is displayed at U.S. Army Ordnance Museum, Aberdeen, Maryland. Display case 47, climate-controlled, properly preserved. The placard reads, Mosin Nagant Model 1891/30, PE4 scope, used by Vera Blackwell, Office of Strategic Services Operative, Soviet 6th Guards Army, 1943 to 1944, 43 confirmed kills, pioneer of psychological conditioning tactics in sniper warfare, demonstrated that patience and understanding of human psychology can multiply combat effectiveness beyond raw firepower. Saved an estimated 400 to 600 Allied lives through psychological warfare impact of her operations. Next to the rifle, Katya Volkov's notebook, open to October 20th, 1943. Her handwriting, precise, detailed, 8 kills documented with timestamps and descriptions, the last complete entry she made before her death 5 months later. Visitors can read it, see the precise documentation, understand that behind every military operation are people, people who document, people who trust, people who die, not just people who shoot. 2024, Marine Corps deployment, classified location, Staff Sergeant Sarah Martinez, Scout Sniper, 8 years service. 41 confirmed kills. She's in position, watching enemy compound. Could take shot now, doesn't. Waits. Her spotter, Corporal James Kim, whispers, "You have the shot." I know. Why wait? Blackwell methodology. Let them get comfortable first. Show them I'm not a threat. Then, when it matters most, prove them wrong. That could take days. So we wait days. Kim settles in. They wait. Because Martinez learned at Quantico that patience is a weapon. That the best shot isn't always the first shot. that Vera Blackwell proved something fundamental. Humans can be conditioned, enemies can be taught, and the most dangerous opponent is the one you've learned to ignore. 3 days later, Martinez achieves mission objective: 0 friendly casualties, maximum psychological impact on enemy forces. After-action report cites successful application of psychological conditioning tactics per Blackwell methodology. Martinez never met Vera Blackwell. Vera died when Martinez was 6 years old. But Martinez carries Vera's lessons, uses Vera's tactics, saves lives using Vera's understanding. That's legacy, not monuments, not medals. Living application of lessons learned in frozen Russian mud in 1943, passed from woman to woman, generation to generation, still working, still relevant, still saving lives. What do we learn from Vera Blackwell? Not that killing is glorious.
Vera never thought that. Not that war is noble. Vera knew better. We learn that the most powerful weapons are often invisible. Patience, understanding, willingness to endure short-term costs for long-term victory. We learn that competence sometimes requires appearing incompetent, that immediate results matter less than final outcomes, that the mind is more powerful than the rifle. Vera Blackwell didn't have the best equipment, didn't have institutional support,
Didn't have recognition during her lifetime. What she had, mind trained by years of precision work, patience developed through tedious factory labor, understanding that perfection requires waiting for exactly the right moment, and courage to execute a strategy everyone thought was insane. 27 failures before 8 successes, 3 weeks of humiliation before 6 minutes of vindication. That's not just military history, that's human history. Everyone who's been underestimated, everyone who's trusted a vision others couldn't see, everyone who's endured short-term costs for long-term victory. Vera Blackwell, 1922 to 2009, 87 years, 43 confirmed kills, 400 to 600 lives saved, 64 years carrying the weight of both numbers. She once said to Robert Matthews in that 1979 interview, "People ask if I'm proud. I'm not proud. I'm not ashamed. I did what was necessary. Killed when killing saved more than it cost. That's not heroism. That's mathematics. Terrible mathematics. But someone has to do the calculation. Someone has to carry the weight. I was trained for precision. So I made precise calculations, and I've spent 64 years living with the results. Some nights I sleep fine. Some nights I see 43 faces. Both are true. Both are part of carrying what war requires." That's a veteran, not someone who celebrates violence. Someone who understands its terrible necessity, who carries its cost with dignity, who honors those who didn't survive by living deliberately, by refusing to waste the survival they were denied. To Vera Blackwell, to Katya Volkov, to every soldier who proved that intelligence matters more than equipment, that patience defeats aggression, that understanding humans is the ultimate weapon. We remember, we honor, we learn, and we pass those lessons to the next generation. Because some truths transcend time, some tactics work in any era, some humans understand warfare better than their contemporaries understand them. Vera Blackwell was one of those humans. Her story deserves to be told. Not because it's comfortable, because it's true. And truth, like patience, is a weapon, one that never becomes obsolete.